The Raptors catch fire from deep, and Immanuel Quickley pops off. Let's talk about it.
This is the Raptors Postcast, your instant game reaction for the Toronto Raptors. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
All right, welcome to this episode of the Raptors Postcast on the Locked On Podcast Network. Now the #1 podcast network covering your team every day, and we are coming to you live after the Raptors 145-127 win against the Golden State Warriors on YouTube, Apple, Spotify, and the Locked On podcast feed. I'm Zulfi, Sheikh, credentialed journalist covering the Raptors and the NBA for over 2 years with outlets like Sportsnet and Raptors Public, and now one of your humble hosts on the Raptors Postcast, breaking down each and every game with you. And with me is Duane Notice, aka Dino, professional basketball player and analyst. Duane has represented Canada. He's been part of the Raptor system with the 905, and he's still hooping professionally in leagues like the CBL. And on tonight's show, myself and Duane are going to talk about how the Raptors finally hit some threes, and it made all the difference. We'll break down a dominant first quarter that we believe set the tone, get some thoughts from our resident pro on a segment we like to call Take Notice, and then we'll wrap things up by handing out our player of the game. But we're going to start things off by going over the story and what everyone's going to be talking about tomorrow.
This is what you'll be talking about.
All right, Duane, this might feel a little reductive here, but coming off a game where the Raptors went 7 of 32 from deep in a loss to the Lakers, completely ineffective against a zone defense. The thing we kept talking about is they're going to have to figure out some shot making here, and they did it in the absolute best way possible. 21 of 34 from deep. That ties their season high in makes that they set in the first week of the NBA season, which just goes to show this team hasn't been the best shooting, but they were tonight. And it was contributions up and down the rosters. You had at least 5 players make 2 threes. And it made all the difference for this squad. And I know it sounds simple, making shots help, but what did you see from this Raptors team in being able to shoot the lights out of the ball tonight?
Trusting the work ethic. I think Quickley spoke about it after the game with his post-game interview, but just trusting the next shot, the next pass. I think it bears good for the Raptors. But honestly, what I thought was that basketball is sort of like a 10-round boxing fight in the sense that whoever throws the first punch can establish that dominance in terms of pace, in terms of their fingerprints all over the game. That's what the Raptors did. They started off with a 10-0 run against the Warriors. I thought that was pretty impressive. And the ball moved from player to player. The ball movement was immaculate today. 42 assists, sharing the cookie. I mean, they always say the ball finds good energy. So I believe that's why they made so many threes today, is because they played that unselfish style of basketball.
Yeah, a season high 42 assists on 51 made field goals. Like you said, sharing the rock. It was a lot of like we said coming in, it was Darko ball, right? 0.5 offense, quick decision making. And that started early right away. I thought the decision making from all the guys where the ball wasn't sticking much. They were able to get on the break because of it. This was very much a trademark Raptors win, aside from obviously the hot 3-point shooting night. But a lot of the fundamentals and strengths of this team were there. But it didn't come out without a bit of drama. Like most Raptors games, the other team was able to get back into it late. The Warriors cut what was a 30-point lead down to 10, I believe, in the fourth quarter. But again, the Raptors were able to respond with timely offense. Healed, I think, at one point hit back-to-back threes, and that's how they cut that lead down to 10. But then you had Brandon Ingram and Mamu. They responded right back with threes of their own. Immanuel Quickley was able to get to the line, I believe, at least 6 times in the fourth quarter, and that really settled things when they needed it. Jamal Sheikh got back into the game. He was orchestrating a little bit late. What did you see from these guys to close the game? It wasn't the prettiest, but they were able to get the job done in the end.
Well, until the Raptors learn how to close games, I feel like I'm a big movie guy. So every lead will feel like a trailer and not a movie. So we got to figure out how to do that. But when it comes to that, I think Mama was providing a great spark off the bench. You saw him being active, making 3-point shots, but also on the glass, finding the next pass. And I think quickly his assertiveness is what really helped the Raptors get this kind of position. And Barnes being 6 for 6 in the first quarter, I think was also a dominant, thing for him being the catalyst of our team when it comes to the Raptors starting the offense at the point forward position. But I just think that the way they closed out was excellent because, like you said, you have B.I., who's one of the best shot creators and makers in the game of basketball today, that is able to bail you off the hook whenever things get stagnant. He can take those tough shots and make those tough shots that got them over the hump when the Warriors try to come back in the third and the fourth quarter. And then, like you said, Immanuel Quickley getting to the line, being persistent, and also making 7 to 8 threes. I think just when it goes to show that the ball, like I said, has power, has energy. And when it gets flowing like that, The vibes is tremendous, and you kind of find that flow state. And I think that's what the Raptors are doing in the fourth quarter.
Yeah, the Raptors were doing it. Immanuel Quickley was definitely doing it. Season high 7 threes, like you mentioned. But like again, up and down the roster, it was just an efficient night for them. Like Grady Dick was 2 of 5 from 3. Brandon Ingram was 4 of 6. You had obviously IQ, which is 7 for 8. Shed was 2 for 2. You had Sandro 4 for 4, and you mentioned it. He had 14 points, 12 rebounds. It was a double night for him. Even Jamison Battle going 2 for 4 from the 3-point line. And again, this was against a Warriors team that was coming in really hot. They had gone 4 straight games by making 20 or more threes, and the Raptors kept them under 16 in this game. So defensively, they were doing stuff as well, but they were matching what they needed to in this game, right? Like, you're not going to be able to keep up with this Warriors team. And yes, they're on the second night of the back-to-back, and they probably had a bit of an emotional letdown, losing Jimmy Butler yesterday, obviously, to injury, torn ACL. We hope in nothing but the best and a speedy recovery. But, like, you know what you're going to get from this Warrior team. They're going to try to outshoot you. And for the Raptors to match that energy and be able to not only match it, but exceed it, I think made all the difference for them in this game. But I guess the question coming out of it then is like, how do they keep this up? Like, you don't want this to just be a one-off night where they were hot, right? Like, you want this to be a continued thing for them. Maybe it's not 21 threes every night, but the last 2 weeks, the Raptors were shooting 26% from 3. They were worse than the league. You need to find a middle ground there somewhere. Like, where do you think they can take this game and grasp some momentum out of it?
Well, then they can continue to grow from this and evolve, because it's a lot of paint touches. Like you said, Darko is really big on the 0.5 basketball, and you saw that a lot today. Drive, kick, swing, or swing, pass to a shot. And if they can continue to do that, implement that in their offense, then you'll continue to click and going forward. But I think the key to success for them is having Immanuel Quickley off the ball. We know he's a score first type of guard. So I don't like him trying to, orient the offense. I kind of like him being that AI back in the day Philadelphia guy that just worries about putting the ball in the basket. And when he's doing that, I think that's when he's at his best personally, especially when he's on the Knicks and he was such an offensive force. So going forward, they need to find that kind of rhythm of having Shed kind of be the dominant guy, or even starting with Grady like they did, so that, Quickley is able to find his offensive rhythm outside of a guy like BI who can get it on his own, or outside of a guy like Scotty Barnes, who's so great. I mean, he's like a mini LeBron James in the fact that he's a stat stuffer and he has his imprint all over the game, the rebounds, the assists, but also the buckets, and his control and his growth. I mean, if he's not an all-star, I don't know what's going on with everybody out there.
Yeah, 100%. Scotty Barnes, again, another double-double for him, 26 points, 11 rebounds, nearly a triple-double with 7 rebounds, 11 assists, so nearly a triple-double there. But you mentioned a little bit about Immanuel Quickley and Jamal Shed, that double point guard lineup that the Raptors have. They had to go to it in this game early because of injuries, obviously, with CMB out, RJ. But it did set the tone for them, and I think it's time we get into our turning point and get to what the first quarter meant for the Raptors.
Time to reveal where the game was won or lost. It's the turning point.
Duane, you mentioned this earlier, and I'm glad you did. You said the value of punching first. And if anybody here has watched the Raptors 905 this season, their head coach, Drew Jones, he constantly talks about this message, and that's what's in my head. It's not just the value of being able to punch back, which the Raptors did do in this game, but it's being able to punch first and make it easy on yourselves. Like, if you look at the Raptors, it was their second game of a 5-game road trip. They had just lost a disappointing way to the Lakers, and they needed to find a way to make it easier on themselves. Having to claw back early isn't the recipe for success you want to have, again, against this hot shooting Warriors team. So being able to get that lead early, I think it did really set the tone for what the Raptors needed tonight. 10-0 run to start, but it wasn't just the fact that it was 10-0. It was your leaders making shots early. Scotty with a baseline turnaround. You had Ingram with a mid-range jumper of his own, and then IQ went 2 for 2 from deep, part of that 10-0 run. And then it got them going and got them juiced up to run their offense quickly, right? You mentioned as well, 13-0 fast break points in the first quarter. They ended up winning that battle 21-5. They hit 5 of 8 from 3 early. So again, setting the tone with that 3-point shooting. You had a guy like Grady who hasn't had the best of seasons so far, but he gets to start. It's his first of the year. And what does he do on his second shot of the game? Comes off a pin down, zero hesitation, and just exactly what you want to see from him. And it sets the tone for your guys. And like you said, moving the ball, 13 assists on 16 field goals in the first quarter. I felt like the Raptors had a trademark. We're going to punch first. We're going to come out and put our foot on their necks. And it is really what carried them throughout this game. Yeah,
it is. And I think what was a telltale sign for me was how locked in they were, is that in the first possession of the game, you saw them go from side to side, but then they had a nice little pin down for BI to get a post touch for Scotty Barnes on the left block. And to me, that is intentional, right? You want to get your star involved. You want to establish Scotty early within that game. And he made that nice little turnaround jumper over the left shoulder. I thought it was sweet. And I thought that's what really got them rolling, to be honest. And then from there, I mean, talk about the give and goes. I mean, traditional basketball, the face cuts, they're so immaculate at doing that. Scotty Barnes headman the ball up to the wing and then cutting around his defender to get that layup. We've seen that so many times, whether it's him or Mamu getting to the basket and making those dunks. So the first quarter was definitely key to their success. And like you said, I think that if they could start games this way by throwing the first punch instead of being on the receiving end, then good things are going to be in the future for them.
All right, so from a player's perspective, I know it sounds simple to say like what the importance of starting quick, starting fast, and like getting a lead early can do for a team. But when you see how the Raptors played and how they got everybody involved, they were playing a style of basketball that, again, was very much to their strengths. This was a Warriors team that is older. They're a bit slower. And tonight, they weren't bigger than the Raptors because you're missing a guy like Al Horford. Obviously, again, no Jimmy Butler. So when you're able to really establish yourselves early as a player, like what does that do for your confidence and for a team?
I think it just reassures you. Like I said, a lot of players, you put in the hard work, the work ethic is there, the discipline's there, the commitment's there. So it's a matter of just having the fruits of the labor show. And sometimes it doesn't happen. Sometimes it's nice where the ball's not going to go in the basket, but you have to trust the process, trust the work. So for them, they're able to do that, and they didn't let small things snowball into bigger things. And I think that's what allowed them to be successful tonight. But yeah, going forward, you just have to love the fact that they're sharing the ball. And like I said, they're intentional. And as a player, you can go into this game looking at the fact that the Warriors are depleted because Jimmy Butler is no longer playing with that, injury. And that's sad. And, most players probably will go in and be like, we have less to worry about now. It's just Steph Curry. It's going to be an easier game. But instead, the maturity on these young players and the guys like B.I. and Scotty who led their troops out there tonight in battle, I think kept everybody's head on their shoulders. And they had a great mindset in today's game and putting the Warriors away early. And the reason why you want to establish, like you said, the early run is because then it minimizes that room for error. And we all know, like I said, in the third quarters and sometimes the fourth quarters where the Raptors are susceptible to giving up those large leads and those deficits. So having that early onslaught allowed them to kind of have that breathing area of making mistakes later in the game that, again, you want to clean up going forward, because when you play those bigger and better teams like the Denver Nuggets or, the Spurs or the OKC Thunder, you want to be able to minimize those mistakes.
Yeah, I think that's a very good point. It gives yourself some grace, right? And again, like we said, start of a road trip. This is the first time of a back-to-back, so you're going to have to play again on a short turnaround tomorrow against the Kings. So anything to make your lives easier, I think, is going to go a long way for your team. But something we haven't really talked about yet in this game, and I think it goes a bit under the radar, is the job the Raptors did defensively. I think, obviously, again, the second half of this game, the Warriors did really kind of catch fire a little bit. Buddy Hield was able to make some shots. You had other guys get going. I felt like Jonathan Kuminga coming into this game, especially in the second half, his athleticism was really disruptive for the Raptors, and it took them a while to adjust to it. But even if you just take a look at it, again, you kept the Warriors to 16 threes on 43 attempts. That's 37%. That looks good. But again, for this Warriors team that was hot shooting, they had won 4 games in a row. I think it was a success. And then Steph Curry, he finished with 16 points on 6 of 16 shooting, 2 of 7 from 3. Anytime you can keep Steph to those numbers, you take it as a massive win. So what did you see from these guys defensively, whether it was a guy like Jamal Shed who started against Steph, or just overall, like what was the impact that they had on that end of the floor?
I think it was a combination of both fearlessness, but also sticking to the scouting report. When you're a coaching staff and you put together these game plans against some of the best players in the world, you kind of want to hit certain, milestones or goals. And I think they did that, defending the three-point line at a high level. But also, like you said, when you can hold a guy, perennial all-star Hall of Famer, who's going to be a Hall of Famer in the future, and Steph Curry to under 20 points. I mean, I've never seen Steph Curry in back-to-back possessions, hit the backboard and no net on a couple shots. But that's a testament.
And an air ball in this game.
And an air ball.
Crazy. Yeah.
Which is that he missed a couple layups. Usually we're accustomed to seeing him make those layups, whether it's jelly or not. I think it's just a testament to the defensive pressure that guys like Abaji and also Jamal Shed were putting on him all night. I saw a play where Abaji made a turnover, and instead of complaining to the referees, instead of complaining to his teammates or trying to come up with an explanation as to why he made that mistake, he went and found number 30 right away. And that, to me, is just a guy who's locked in on the scouting report and everybody else who is all on the same page on defense.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point about Ochai Agbaji. It wasn't the greatest night for him offensively, but then again, when you're a depleted team like the Raptors and you're shorthanded, you know you're going to get into game and you have to make an impact one way or the other. So for Ochai Agbaji to do things defensively, I think that made a big difference. Grady Dick, again, his first start of the season, it wasn't the craziest night for him offensively. 10 points, 3 of 6 shooting from the field, which is positive for him. Obviously, he wasn't a bit of slump shooting, but I felt like his activity on the defensive end was great as well. We know the Raptors run this scheme that tries to help some of Grady Dick's deficiencies tendencies defensively where they like to peel switch and stuff like that. But tonight, I felt like he was doing a great job of sticking with his man. I saw him like guard Moses Moody one-on-one a couple times. And there was a great play, I believe it was in the first quarter as well during that run, where the Raptors turned the ball over. And like you said about Ocha, he just got right back. He didn't stop a 2-on-1 on his own, but he slowed it down. And it allowed Mom to get back into the play, and they forced a miss from Gary Payton. And I think it was all those little moments from their other guys, their bench, that actually won tonight in their scoring minutes as well. And this is a Warriors team that is second in the NBA in bench scoring, so that was another positive for them. But they took care of all the little things for this team, and that goes such a long way when you back up your leaders with that kind of extra support.
Yeah, it does. And like you said, taking care of the little things. I think in the first quarter, I saw Draymond Green get 3 wide open looks, and the Raptors want that. They want a guy like Draymond Green shooting shots. You saw Gary Payton make a couple shots in the corner, but they want that. They're going to play to the percentages, and they ended up working out in their favor. So that's, again, a testament to them keying in on the scouting report and, shutting off the guys that, want to get their shots off and letting it be the guys that don't usually get those opportunities and force them to have to make a shot. But you made a great point, man. Grady Dick, I think, starting the game being aggressive, not only on offense, like taking shots when he had his open opportunities, but also on defense, king on defense. He did a great job of trying to guard his yard, and all you could do is ask for effort. Not, this is the NBA, man. All these guys are talented. It's very difficult to stop Steph Curry from averaging his 28 points, whatever he is averaging this year. Guys like Luka are going to get their 35 points no matter what you do. All you want to do is try and make it as most difficult as possible, and I think they did that. So for them, I was impressed with Grady Dick and him and his ability to try and guard his yard. You're mentioning that play earlier. He was guarding Moses or Moody, and Moody was pivoting, kind of gave him a shoulder bump and made a shot against him. But again, I love the tenacity of Grady Dick to kind of return the next play and still try and guard him again and again with that maximum effort. In the fourth quarter, he made an amazing steal. I think someone was trying to post him up. He back tapped it and saved it from going out of bounds. And again, that was another thing that kind of cut into the run in the fourth quarter. So Grady Dick's activity, like you said, was really good. So it's always good to see a guy who's known to be a shooter, but even if he's not making his presence known necessarily on offense, still affect the game on defense.
Yeah, I think it's a very good point. Again, contributions from all the guys up and down the roster, and it was doing everything outside of the shooting that helped them carry this into a win. But obviously the shooting started it. But overall, there's just multiple positives to take from this. But coming up, we're going to go to our resident expert again, Duane. We're going to have our Take Notice segment where he goes over how the Raptors were track stars on the night and how that played into what they wanted to do. And then we'll wrap things up by handing out our player of the game. All right, this episode is brought to you by Quo. New year, new systems. This is a time when a lot of us look at the messier parts of how we run our business and think there has to be a better way. And there is. Streamlining communications is one of the quickest upgrades you can make, which is why we're bringing this episode to you by Quo. That's spelled Quo, the smarter way to run your business communications. Because when your team is reachable, organized, and communicating in one place, you're not just working cleaner, you're creating more opportunities to connect with customers. And I love how Quo makes everything simple. Your whole team can call and text from one shared number, and so nothing gets missed. It works right from your phone or computer, and you can even keep your existing number. And Quo smart AI tools automatically log calls, summarize conversations, and highlight next steps, so details never slip through the cracks. So it's no surprise Quo is the #1 rated business phone system on G2, trusted by more than 90,000 businesses, from solo operators to growing teams. So make this the year where no opportunity and no customer slips away. Try Quo for free, plus get 20% off your first 6 months when you go to quo.com/lockedonnba. That's quo.com/lockedonnba. Quo, no missed calls, no missed customers. This episode is also brought to you by TurboTax. Tax season does not have to take over your life. This year, TurboTax is making it easier than ever to just hand things off and move on with your day. With TurboTax's full service, you can have your taxes done for you by a trusted local expert, start to finish, without stress or guesswork. So instead of spending hours trying to figure out forms, you can meet with a local TurboTax expert in person and connect online. They handle everything and work to get you every deduction. Now, I personally worked with a TurboTax expert last year as a first-time freelancer, and I will absolutely be doing it again because of how simple they made the process. You can upload your documents, go about your day, and you get updates right in the TurboTax app. So you save a ton of time with peace of mind as well. And for a limited time, you can have your taxes done by a local TurboTax expert for just $150, all in if a TurboTax expert did not file your taxes last year. Just make sure you file by February 28th. So take taxes off your plate, Get back to your life. Visit turbotax.com/local to book your appointment today. All right, Duane, as we continue this episode of the Raptors Postcast, everybody please make sure to check out Sean Woodley with Locked On Raptors in the morning to get more in-depth analysis of this Raptors 145-127 victory. And it's time we go to our Take Notice segment for people tuning in for the first time. Our resident expert and pro basketball player, Duane Notice, gives us his thoughts and observation on something interesting he noticed during the game. All right, Duane, let us hear it.
All right, my Take Notice point today is, did you guys notice that usually they are the Raptors, but today they seem like they were the Trackstars? I mean, they were running. We talked about them on fast break, pushing the pace, and transition is imperative because for a team that struggles against a zone, how do you counter that? You do it by pushing the pace. When you push the pace, you don't allow the defense to set up, and not allowing the defense to set up means that they cannot prepare for whatever offense you're about to slay onto them. So for them, pushing the pace, I already spoke about the give and goes happen like 2 or 3 times throughout the game. Traditional basketball, you love to see it, chef's kiss, and then also the face cuts that were unstoppable tonight. So for them, pushing the pace, converting those turnovers into buckets, but even when they were getting scored on, they were still getting the ball out the net instead of pouting, instead of putting their heads down, instead of making them being upset about making a mistake. They got the ball out, they got it to Scotty, or they got to somebody up and caught the Warriors slipping, sleeping, lacking, and scored countless buckets in transition. So again, pushing the pace, I think, is going to be the bread and butter for the Raptors. It reminded me of the D'Antoni Phoenix Suns and Steve Nash era, when it would be like, we got to score within 6 seconds or less, because it's so hard to game plan for that type of offense because it's a random activity, but it's still like an organized chaos in a sense. So again, I noticed that they were Trackstars today instead of the Raptors.
I like that. Trackstars instead of Rapstars. That's kind of a bar. But look, I think you hit the nail on the head there with the Raptors. This isn't a team that necessarily by the numbers has been the most efficient in transition, but it's been such a massive part of their shot diet. Because again, they have not been the strongest three-point shooting team. In the half court, there has been a bit of an overall reliance on a guy like Brandon Ingram to take care of business. So getting easy offense in transition is big for a lot of these guys like a Sandro Mamukelashvili or even a Jonathan Mobo who got into the game tonight with no CMB. I think those guys, and even Scotty Barnes, I think it's good offense for him because you get the ball in momentum. You get to fight through contact, be more physical, and it's high percentage looks closer to the basket, which the Raptors could definitely use more of. And in this game, again, you saw it multiple times where there was just guys, it's effort in some instances too, right? It's just running down the middle of the floor. Jonathan Mobo had this nice D-cell finish where he just ran straight down the middle and they found him on a cut, like you said. Same thing for Scotty. He got a dunk that way early. Mamu had one later in the game as well. So it doesn't have to be overcomplicated. It doesn't have to be kind of trying to space yourself out in 6 different directions in transition and trying to get a 2-on-1 that way. Sometimes it is just hustle and it is just making sure you're in the right spots. And the Raptors were able to take care of business doing that tonight. Again, 21-5 in fast break points. They started 13-0 in that category as well. It was very much a night where you knew what your strength was as a team against a slower, older Warriors team, and they took absolute advantage of it. And that's what you need to see more of from these guys.
Yeah, for sure. And there's beauty and simplicity. You said it. And the thing about the Raptors is that they can be versatile. You can have a situation where in the third and fourth quarter, BI can take those tough shots in the half court. But if you establish getting that early rhythm baskets, like you said, that early offense, then it allows you to have a dual type of offense of knowing that you could have a threat and pushing the pace and getting these guys easy buckets, but then also having a creator in Brandon Ingram who can get the hard buckets as well.
Yeah, that's why you bring a guy like that in, right? Like, it's so you have the option to get a guy who can create his own shot. Again, Brandon Ingram had some timely shots in this game. I think it was when the Raptors started leaking oil in the fourth quarter. He had 3 straight buckets. And I mentioned it earlier, when the Warriors had cut the lead down to 10, it was his 3 with Mamu's that really helped get that breathing room back before Immanuel Quickley did some of his work as well. So Brandon Ingram, he didn't have the most efficient night necessarily. He was 8 of 17 from the floor, 4 of 6 from deep, which for him is really good. And 22 points feels like a kind of ho-hum night for Brandon Ingram. But when those shots are coming when you need them most, which is what he's been able to do quite often for this team, then you're okay with that because you have a guy like Scotty Barnes leading the way in some capacity. Immanuel Quickley, like we said, had his night, and the other guys were making shots as well. So I think it was just a recipe of it all coming together. And part of that recipe was, again, the Raptors' trademark transition play, getting those easy baskets from the other guys and letting the stars do their business as well.
Yeah, everybody being a star in their own role. I like what you said there. I mean, I think everybody contributed in their own way, and that's the beautiful part about being and playing team basketball, because now you can kind of pick up on this. And guys like Grady might have, a double-digit night next game, or guys like Jamal Shed will continue to have that rhythm going. And he banked one, but then also made a key one later in the second half. So the guys are continuing to play with great energy, and it's great to see, man. As a fan, as someone who loves basketball, you just want to see you guys go out there and compete, and that's what they did tonight.
Absolutely, Duane. I think that's a really good point. And all right, we're gonna wrap things up shortly, but first things first, we have to handle some business and hand out our player of the game.
This is the Locked On Player of the Game.
All right, this feels like it's not too much of a competition for player of the game, but you can let me know if you disagree with it. I'll throw a name out there for you, but it's hard not to go with Immanuel Quickley in this one as the player of the game for me. Again, 40 points. 10 assists. It ties his Raptors career high in assists, I believe. It's his career high overall, but also the most he's made with the Raptors. 11 of 13 from the field, 7 of 8 from 3. And this one was really important to me. 11 of 11 from the free throw line. Again, it felt like the ball was just on a string for him tonight. It's very quick decision making. The shot obviously going down is awesome to see, but there was a moment early in this game, I think it was part of that like early run from the Raptors, where IQ got the ball on a handoff from Scotty, quick pick and roll. Scotty slips it. IQ just throws it over the defender to Scotty quickly. Easy basket right there for him. And that pick and roll play is something that you haven't seen a ton of from Immanuel Quickley lately, especially without Jakob Poeltl, who's been his main screening partner. So for him to make these decisions with a bit of intention, for him to be quick with them, not letting the ball stick, you could tell it was one of those nights where he just wanted to make all these decisions with some emphasis, and it really steamrolled into this amazing night for him. It also helps when you make 7 of 8 from 3 and you start like 6 of 6, obviously, but I think his game went so much more than that. And it was just the aggression and overall ability to manipulate the defense, again, getting to the line and doing these things that really steadied the Raptors today. And for me, that's why he's the player of the game.
Yeah, I agree. It has to be Immanuel Quickley. I mean, tying his career high, but it's not just about the points, like you said. It's about his intention. The way he started the game, he seemed locked in from the very start, from the initial tip-off. And he's like a 3-level scorer. With the Knicks, we saw him always have the ball in his hand. But like you said, now with the Raptors, if he's able to adapt and adjust to being a more 0.5 player, I think making decisions on the fly, but also just committing to those decisions instead of second-guessing himself, I think he'll find more success. But, man, the Raptors overall 20 for 20 at the free throw line, so the efficiency was there. But like you said, Immanuel Quickley getting to the line, he had a couple beautiful buckets. I mean, that and one with the left hand off the glass. I don't know how many of you guys are ambidextrous out there, but that was impressive. Very impressive from a hooper standpoint. Seeing the creativity, reminded me of like a Kyrie Irving, just chefing it off the glass through the contact. But he just seemed to, like you said, weather the storm every time that the ship kind of felt like it was rocking and the waves were getting a little bit too high tide. So Immanuel Quickley deserves it, man. He played with a lot of intensity. He was quick, for a lack of better words, but at the same time, he was also passing the ball. And as a player, it's great when you see a guy have 40 chicken nuggets on the scoreboard, but it didn't feel like a force. It didn't seem like he was taking every shot. It felt in the rhythm of the game. It didn't seem like he was out there trying to get his. It just seemed like he was letting the game come to him, and he was making the best decisions. And because of that, the Raptors won, and it's great to see that he was able to be the catalyst for that.
Yeah, again, you mentioned this earlier, flow state, right? Like this dude was definitely in a flow. You said it yourself, wasn't forcing anything. I knew he was having a really good night when he took Steph off the dribble, went step back and hit that midi around the free throw line. And then a couple plays later, he throws a no-look pass to Scotty, who then gets it to Ochai, who gets it back to IQ, gives it back to Scotty. He throws a no-look to Mamu, who finds BI for a 3. It was just such a beautiful possession. But again, that starts with Immanuel Quickley's intentionality about throwing that pass to rolling Scotty. The last couple of weeks, it's come up a couple times where you're like, oh, IQ could have seen that rolling player. He missed CMB on that read or whatnot. So for him to make those reads tonight, and sometimes it is just being a bit risky, right? Sometimes you have to take risks to make plays, and he was willing to do that tonight. It was the aggression, it was the intensity, and all of it just came into this perfect storm from him in a game that, quite frankly, he needed. He needed a bit of momentum to bounce back. Like you said, it was just something where it finally clicked for him. And any time where you match Vince Carter for a franchise record of something, it's a good night for you. For those wondering, he's only the second Raptor to have a 40-point, 10-assist game, again, matching Vince Carter. So for him to have that in a Raptors uniform was awesome, and it was entirely necessary for this win tonight.
Yeah, very necessary. And like you said, he's sitting in great company. I'm a big Vince Carter fan. One of the reasons why I even played basketball today. So, like you said, not only did he have 40 points, but he also handed out 10 dimes as well. So he was being unselfish and helped his team to the victory, not just through buckets, but through spreading the wealth. So, man, you got to love it. Because, like I said, him being one of those guys that were kind of struggling, but knowing that he has all this offensive gifts and power to him, it's like unfortunate we don't see it as consistent as we want to. But hopefully this can be a start for him to continue to stay in that flow state like you're speaking on.
Absolutely. I think that's a really good point. And again, we're getting close to the trade deadline. There's been a lot of chatter, a lot of rumors. And I know as fans, that's interesting and you want to find ways to improve the team. But for players, it can go one of two ways, right? Like you can hear all that chatter and it can really like bog you down, or you can use it as motivation to put together a performance like this to build some momentum and show a team why they should have you and why you should stick around. And I think Immanuel Quickley is the type of guy, he's talked about it before, where he wants to be able to fight through adversity and really showcase his value to a team. And tonight was a big statement in that regard.
Yeah, I agree, man. You got to take it personal. And I think Immanuel quickly did that. Like you said, around trade deadline, sometimes you want to keep your value and show a team why they should keep you, or show other teams around the league why you're that valuable.
Absolutely. All right, Duane, I think that's a good spot for us to wrap it up. Great win for the Raptors. So for myself, Zulfi, Sheikh, and Duane Notice, thank you to everyone who tuned in live and for those listening the morning after. Again, it is a bit of a late night. This West Coast trip might be a little late for some people. So if you tune in the morning, we don't mind at all, but we appreciate you all the same. And if you haven't already, make sure to like and subscribe to Locked On Raptors on all platforms. Don't forget to comment below if you have any thoughts on this awesome win for the team. And we will be back tomorrow. That's Wednesday, live once again after the Raptors visit DeMar DeRozan and the Sacramento Kings. So until then, we will see you in a bit. This is the Raptors Postcast. Peace.